1. The networking event. Emma Sinclair stood at the edge of the crowded ballroom, nursing a glass of wine and regretting her decision to come. The charity gala was everything she hated about the tech industry: oversized egos, forced networking, and her mother's voice still ringing in her ears from the car ride over. "Girls, there will be venture capitalists here, eligible, successful men. This is your chance." Lizzie rolled her eyes at the memory. She was 28 years old, not a debutante at some Regency-era ball. She'd come to network for her journalism career, not hunt for a husband. Beside her, her older sister Jane looked radiant in a blue dress, completely at ease despite their mother's meddling. That was Jane. Sweet, optimistic, always seeing the best in people. "This isn't so bad," Jane said, smiling at someone across the room. "Easy for you to say. You're not being auctioned off to the highest bidder." Jane laughed. "Mom means well." "Mom is delusional." A man approached them. Tall, friendly-looking, with an easy smile that reached his eyes. "Hi, I'm Charlie Bingley." He extended his hand to Jane. "I haven't seen you at one of these before." Jane shook his hand, her cheeks flushing slightly. "Jane Bennett. This is my first tech event. My friend got us tickets." "Well, I'm glad she did." Charlie's attention was completely focused on Jane, and Lizzie recognized the look immediately. He was smitten. They talked for a few minutes before Charlie excused himself. "I'll be right back. My friend just texted. But don't go anywhere, okay?" As Charlie walked away, Lizzie watched him head to the bar, where another man stood checking his phone. Even from across the room, Lizzie could tell this man was different. Designer suit, closed-off body language, the air of someone who didn't want to be there. Charlie said something to him, gesturing back toward Jane and Lizzie. The other man barely looked up. Lizzie found herself moving closer, curious despite herself. She ended up near the bar, close enough to overhear. "You should ask her sister to dance," Charlie was saying, enthusiasm clear in his voice. The other man's voice was cold, bored. "I'm not interested in playing wingman to your flavor of the week." "Come on, Will. Which one is she?" "The one pretending not to eavesdrop." The man finally looked up, and Lizzie found herself meeting dark, intense eyes. "She's barely attractive enough to tempt me." Lizzie's blood ran cold, then hot with fury. She turned on her heel and walked away, her hands shaking with anger. Who the hell did this guy think he was? She pulled out her phone and opened Instagram, typing furiously on her private story. Note to self: rich tech bros are even worse in person. This is why I stay single. She posted it and shoved her phone back in her purse. Jane found her a few minutes later. "You okay? You look upset." "I'm fine. Just ready to go." "But Charlie asked for my number. He seems really nice, Lizzie." Lizzie forced a smile. "He does. I'm happy for you." "What happened?" "Nothing. Just overheard something that reminded me why I hate these events." They left an hour later. Lizzie tried to forget about the man at the bar, the one who dismissed her without a second thought. She didn't know that within hours, her Instagram story would be screenshot and shared. That people would start speculating about who she was talking about. That someone would identify the man from photos of the gala. His name was William Darcy. And Lizzie had just made an enemy of one of the most powerful men in tech. 2. Going viral. Lizzie woke up to 43 notifications. She groaned, reaching for her phone on the nightstand. It was barely 7 in the morning. Who was blowing up her Instagram this early? Then she saw them. Screenshots of her story, shared in group chats, posted to other accounts, comments speculating about who the rich tech bro was. Her stomach dropped. Someone had identified him. Will Darcy, CEO of Pemberley Tech, net worth in the hundreds of millions. And someone had matched the timeline and location to the charity gala. Oh no, oh no, no, no. Her phone rang. Jane. "Lizzie, did you see? Your story is everywhere." "I know. I'm looking at it now. Jane, I'm so sorry. I didn't think anyone would care." "It's not your fault. But Lizzie, Charlie texted me this morning. He still wants to get brunch with me. With some friends." "That's good, right?" One of those friends is Will Darcy. Lizzie closed her eyes. Of course he is. It'll be fine. We'll just be polite. Pretend it never happened. Jane, I basically called him an entitled jerk on social media. You didn't name him. Maybe he doesn't know it was about him. Lizzie wanted to believe that. But something told her Will Darcy knew exactly what she'd said about him. 2 hours later, Lizzie found herself at an upscale brunch spot in Manhattan, sitting across from the man who'd insulted her. Charlie had been warm and welcoming, introducing everyone enthusiastically. Will Darcy had barely acknowledged her, giving a curt nod before returning his attention to his phone. Between them sat Caroline Bingley, Charlie's friend, and clearly someone who considered herself far too important for this gathering. "So, Jane?" Caroline said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Charlie mentioned you're a teacher? How quaint." "Elementary school," Jane said, smiling. "I love it. I'm sure the pay is just fabulous." Lizzie jumped in. "Jane's one of the best teachers in her district. She was nominated for an award last year." "How wonderful!" Caroline turned to Lizzie. "And you're a blogger, is it?" "Journalist. I freelance, covering tech industry and social issues." "Oh!" Caroline's smile was razor sharp. "So you're the one who wrote that little Instagram story about entitled tech bros." The table went silent. Lizzie met Caroline's gaze steadily. "I don't recall mentioning anyone by name." "No, but people have been speculating." Caroline glanced at Will. "Some people are very private. They could sue for defamation if they wanted." "Not that Will would bother with small-town bloggers." "Journalists," Lizzie corrected, her voice tight. "Caroline," Charlie said uncomfortably, "let's order. I'm starving." Will finally spoke, his voice low and controlled. "I'm not concerned with social media gossip, Miss Bennet. I'm far too busy with actual work to care what strangers think of me." The implication was clear. She was beneath his notice. Lizzie wanted to throw her mimosa in his face. Instead, she smiled sweetly. "How fortunate for you, Mr. Darcy. Some of us have to actually worry about our reputations." His eyes met hers, and for a moment, something flickered there. Surprise? Interest? It was gone before she could identify it. The rest of brunch was excruciating. Caroline dominated the conversation, name-dropping constantly. Charlie tried to include everyone. Jane was her usual gracious self. And Will Darcy said approximately 10 words the entire time. But Lizzie felt his eyes on her. More than once, she caught him looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. When they finally left, Jane squeezed her arm. "That wasn't so bad, Jane. It was terrible. Charlie still likes me. That's what matters." Lizzie watched Charlie hug Jane goodbye, his face lighting up when she agreed to see him again. At least her sister was happy. Will Darcy stood by his car, phone in hand, looking like he couldn't wait to leave. Good. The feeling was mutual. But as Lizzie walked away, she heard Caroline's voice drift over. "I don't know what Charlie sees in them. So ordinary." And Will's response, quiet but clear. "I wouldn't say that." "Ah." Lizzie's steps faltered. She glanced back, but Will was already in his car, pulling away without a second look. She shook her head. It didn't matter what he thought. She'd never see him again anyway. She was wrong. 3. You destroyed me. 3 days later, Lizzie was elbow-deep in research for an article when her doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting anyone. Jane was at work. Her mother never just dropped by without calling first. Lizzie opened the door to find Will Darcy standing on her porch. Her mouth fell open.
"What are you doing here?"
"We need to talk." His voice was clipped. Professional. "How did you even get my address?" "Charlie gave it to me. Can I come in?" Lizzie considered slamming the door in his face, but curiosity won. "Fine. You have 5 minutes." She led him into the living room. He looked out of place here, in his expensive suit, standing in her modest rental. "I'll get straight to the point," Will said. Your grandmother's will included a renovation contract for the inn. With my company. Lizzie blinked. What? Rose Bennett hired my construction division 6 months before she died. The contract states we complete the work regardless of ownership transfer. If you terminate early, you owe $75,000 in penalties. That's insane. That's the contract. Will pulled out his phone, showing her the documents. I assume you'd rather not pay the penalty, which means we'll be working together for the next 3 months. Lizzie felt her world tilt. You're telling me I can't fire you? You can. It'll just be expensive. His expression was unreadable. Or we can be professionals. I do the work I was hired to do. You approve the plans. We minimize contact and pretend the last week never happened. Pretend you didn't insult me at that gala. Pretend you didn't blast me on social media without knowing anything about me. They stared at each other, tension crackling between them. Fine, Lizzie said finally. Professional, but I want daily updates, itemized expenses, and you stay out of my way. Agreed. Will moved toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, Miss Bennett, I spoke without thinking at that gala. It was rude and uncalled for. I apologize. Lizzie was so surprised she couldn't speak. Will continued. But you made assumptions about me based on one overheard comment. You decided who I was without knowing me. So perhaps we're both guilty of prejudice. He left before she could respond. Lizzie stood in her empty living room, heart pounding, mind racing. She'd been so certain Will Darcy was just another arrogant rich guy, but his apology had sounded genuine. No. She wasn't going to let him get in her head. They'd work together because they had to. Nothing more. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into an uneasy routine. Will arrived at 8 sharp every morning, worked until 5, and left with minimal conversation. But Lizzie couldn't help noticing things. The way he was meticulous about the restoration, researching historical accuracy for every detail. The way he brought coffee for both of them without being asked. The way he listened when she talked about her vision for the space, implementing her ideas without argument. The way he sometimes looked at her when he thought she wasn't paying attention. It was confusing. Then came the day that changed everything. Lizzie was upstairs reviewing the electrical plans when she heard Will's voice raised in anger. She'd never heard him sound like that before. She went to the top of the stairs and found him on his phone, pacing in the front hall. I don't care what it costs. Keep him away from her. Do you understand? Whatever it takes. A pause. No, I won't have this conversation with her yet. It's my decision. Another pause. Will's hand was shaking. She's my sister, Caroline. I'll handle it. He ended the call and stood there, breathing hard, running his hand through his hair. Lizzie cleared her throat. Will spun around, and the look on his face stopped her cold. Raw pain, quickly masked. How much did you hear? Enough to know something's wrong. Is your sister okay? She's fine, it's handled. Will, it's none of your business. His voice was harsh. We're not friends, Miss Bennett. We're not anything. You made that clear. Something in Lizzie snapped. You don't get to do that. Do what? Act like I'm the villain here. You're the one who insulted me. You're the one who's been cold and dismissive since day one. You show up here every day with your perfect manners and your expensive coffee, and I have no idea who you actually are. You don't want to know who I am, Will said quietly. You've already decided.
Then prove me wrong.
Tell me what's going on. Why are you so angry all the time? Why do you look at me like...
She stopped herself.
Like what? Like you can't decide if you hate me or... She couldn't finish. Will stepped closer. Or what, Elizabeth? Her breath caught. He'd never called her by her first name before. I don't hate you, he said, his voice low. I wish I did. It would be so much easier. What's that supposed to mean? It means you drive me crazy. It means I can't stop thinking about you. It means every time I walk into this house, I have to remind myself that you think I'm arrogant and entitled, and everything you stand against. Lizzie's heart was pounding. I never said... You didn't have to. Your Instagram story said it all. And maybe you're right. Maybe I am all those things. But I'm also someone who works 16-hour days because I care about building something meaningful. Someone who supports my sister through every crisis. Someone who loved your grandmother and promised her I'd restore this inn the way she deserved. Rose knew you. She was friends with my grandmother. When I started my company, your grandmother was one of my first clients. She believed in me when no one else did. His voice cracked slightly. So yes, this project is personal. And having you here, judging me, assuming the worst about me, it's killing me. Lizzie felt tears prick her eyes. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. You never asked. They stood 3 feet apart, the air between them electric with everything unsaid. I'm sorry, Lizzie whispered. You're right. I judged you. I assumed the worst. And I was wrong. You weren't entirely wrong, Will said. I was rude at that gala. I am awkward in social situations. I do struggle with people who... He stopped. Who what? Who make me feel things I'm not ready to feel? Lizzie's breath caught. Will, his phone rang. He glanced at it, and his expression shuddered. I have to take this. I'll see you tomorrow. He was gone before she could respond. Lizzie stood in the empty hall, her heart racing, replaying every word of their conversation. What just happened? 4. The daughter. The next morning, Will didn't show up at 8. Or 9. Or 10. By 11? Lizzie was worried. He'd never been late before. She texted him. Everything okay? No response. At noon, she called. Straight to voicemail. Lizzie tried to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting to yesterday. The conversation, the almost confession, the way he'd looked at her. At 2 o'clock, she heard a vehicle pull up. Relief flooded through her, but when Lizzie went outside, she found Will looking exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, and sitting in his passenger seat was a little girl. I'm sorry, I'm late, Will said. Babysitter emergency. My daughter's school called. I had to pick her up. Lizzie's world tilted. Your daughter? A small face peered out the window. Big brown eyes, dark curly hair in pigtails. Can she come inside? Will asked. I promise she'll stay out of the way. I just need to finish the upstairs work. Of course. Yes. The little girl climbed out of the truck, backpack nearly as big as she was. She looked at Lizzie with open curiosity. Lily, this is Miss Sinclair. She owns the inn. You can call me Lizzie, Lizzie said, crouching down to Lily's level. You're pretty, Lily announced. And you dress nice. Are you Daddy's girlfriend? Lily! Will's cheeks flushed. That's not we don't. It's okay, Lizzie said, fighting a smile. No, sweetie, I'm not. Your dad and I work together. Oh... Lily seemed disappointed. Daddy needs a girlfriend. He's lonely. Lily, inside. Now. Will's voice was strained. They went into the inn. We'll set up Lily at the dining room table with coloring books and snacks. I'm really sorry about this, he said quietly to Lizzie. It won't happen again. It's fine, really. Lizzie watched Lily, who was already absorbed in her coloring. How old is she? 7. She's beautiful. Something softened in Will's face. She's everything. He went upstairs to work, leaving Lizzie alone with Lily. After a few minutes, curiosity won. Lizzie sat down across from the little girl. What are you drawing? A house? Want to see? Lily showed her a surprisingly detailed drawing of a Victorian house. Wow, that's really good. Daddy showed me pictures of old houses. I like the way they look. Like they have stories. They do. This inn has lots of stories. Did you grow up here? I visited a lot. My grandmother owned it. Is she in heaven? Lily asked matter-of-factly. Lizzie's throat tightened. Yes, my mom's in heaven too. Lily said it simply, without drama. She died when I was 5. I don't remember her much, but Daddy has pictures. Lizzie felt her heart crack. I'm sorry, sweetheart. It's okay. Daddy says she can still hear me when I talk to her. Do you think your grandma can hear you? I do. I think she can. Lily smiled. That's good. Then they're not really gone. They colored together for the next hour. Lily asked a million questions about everything: the inn, Lizzie's job, why grown-ups drank coffee if it tasted bad. Lizzie found herself laughing more than she had in weeks. When Will came downstairs, he found them building a house out of popsicle sticks. What's this? Lizzie's teaching me about architecture, Lily said importantly. Did you know buildings can tell stories? Will's eyes met Lizzie's, and something passed between them. Warmth, understanding. I did know that, he said softly. Can Lizzie come to dinner? Lily asked. Please. We're having spaghetti. Lily, I'm sure Miss Lizzie has plans. Actually, Lizzie heard herself say, I don't, but I don't want to intrude. You wouldn't be, Will said quickly. Then, more carefully. If you'd like to come, you're welcome. I'd like that, Lily cheered. As they packed up to leave, Lily hugged Lizzie goodbye. Thank you for coloring with me. You're nice. You're pretty great yourself. In the doorway, Will lingered. Thank you for being kind to her. She's easy to be kind to. She's amazing, Will. His expression was unreadable. She's my whole world. I can see that. They stood there for a moment, something shifting between them, something softer than the tension that had defined them before. See you tomorrow? Will asked. Tomorrow. After they left, Lizzie stood in the quiet inn, replaying the afternoon. Will Darcy had a daughter, a sweet, smart, funny daughter he clearly adored. Everything she'd thought she knew about him was wrong. And she was starting to realize that her feelings about him were far more complicated than simple dislike. 5. Too close. The next week felt different. Will brought Lily to the work site twice more, and each time, Lizzie found herself looking forward to it. Lily had a way of lightening the mood, asking questions that made both adults laugh, seeing the world with uncomplicated joy. But it was the moments when Lily wasn't there that felt most charged. Will and Lizzie had fallen into an easy working rhythm. They reviewed plans together, made decisions about the restoration, talked about their visions for the space. And somewhere along the way, they'd started talking about other things too. Will told her about starting Pemberley Tech, about the pressure of managing rapid growth, about his fears of failing the people who depended on him. Lizzie told him about her journalism, about trying to find meaningful stories in a world obsessed with clicks, about her complicated relationship with her family. They were becoming friends, or something more than friends. The tension was always there, simmering beneath the surface. The way Will's hand would brush hers when they both reached for the same blueprint. The way Lizzie caught herself staring at him when he was focused on work. The way they stood just a little too close when reviewing plans. It all came to a head on a Thursday afternoon. They were in the second-floor hallway, looking at Lizzie's laptop, reviewing the bathroom renovation plans. The plumbing needs a full replacement, Will said, pointing at the screen. We can patch it temporarily, but it'll fail within a year. Better to do it now. How much more expensive? Will rattled off numbers. Lizzie pulled up her budget spreadsheet, and they fell into discussion about materials and timelines. She leaned forward to point at something on the screen. Will stepped closer to see, and suddenly they were sharing the same breath. Lizzie froze. She could feel the heat radiating from him, could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive. Will had gone completely still. Neither of them moved. Neither of them breathed. Lizzie's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. Slowly, she looked up. Will was staring down at her, his expression intense. His eyes were dark, pupils blown wide. His gaze dropped to her mouth. Emma, he said, his voice rough. Her name. He'd said her name like a prayer. Lizzie watched his throat work as he swallowed. His hands were curled into fists at his sides, like he was physically restraining himself. She should step back. Should put distance between them. Instead, she swayed forward, just an inch. Will's breath hitched. We should... Lizzie's voice came out breathy. The bathroom. You should do the full replacement. Yeah. Will didn't move. That's what I'd recommend. Neither of them moved. The air between them felt electric, charged, like lightning about to strike. Lizzie's whole body was hyper-aware, the heat of him, the rise and fall of his chest, the way his gaze kept dropping to her lips. She remembered, suddenly and vividly, wondering what it would be like to kiss him. And from the look in his eyes, he was thinking the same thing. Professional boundaries, Will said roughly, finally stepping back. Right. Right. Lizzie exhaled shakily. I'll transfer the funds for the bathroom work. Great. Will was already moving toward the stairs, his shoulders rigid. I need to grab supplies. Be back in an hour. He was gone before Emma could respond. Lizzie collapsed against the wall, pressing her hands to her flushed cheeks. What just happened? She'd almost kissed Will Darcy. Or he'd almost kissed her. Or they'd almost kissed each other. And the terrifying part? She'd wanted it. Desperately. Lizzie pulled out her phone with shaking hands and texted Jane. I think I'm in trouble. Jane's response came immediately. What kind of trouble? The developing feelings for someone I swore I hated kind of trouble. Will Darcy? How did you know? Lizzie, everyone knows. The way you two look at each other, it's obvious. Lizzie stared at her phone. We don't look at each other any particular way. Yes, you do. And it's about time you admitted it. Lizzie didn't respond. Because Jane was right. She had feelings for Will Darcy, and she had no idea what to do about it.